How's it going, everybody? My name is Phillip Wallers, and this is my third presentation for my research paper. I titled my research paper Effects of Copyright Laws. In it, I discuss how international copyright laws affect the way computing can be done on a global scale. The paper also discusses a few different copyright laws that other countries use, as well as the ones that we use. It aims to kind of show how similar and different the U.S. is with other countries when it comes to copyright laws. So let's get into what copyright is first. Copyright is a term that refers to the protections that are grounded in the U.S. Constitution and granted by law for original works of authorship fixed in tangible medium of expression. Copyright is used to protect things such as literature, music, artistic works, etc. However, it does not protect anything that is deemed to be facts, ideas, systems, or methods of operation. It does protect the way that these things are expressed, however. Some people mistake copyright laws with patent laws or trademarks. There is quite a big difference, though. Copyright protects the original works of authorship, while a patent protects inventions or discoveries. Ideas and discoveries are not protected by the copyright, although the way in which they are expressed may be. Now, a trademark protects words, phrases, symbols, or designs identifying the source of the goods or services of one party and distinguishing them from those of others. In the 1970s and 1980s, there were many discussions about what system should protect computer systems. These discussions resulted in the generally accepted principle that computer programs should be protected by copyright, whereas the apparatus using the computer software or software-related inventions should be protected by a patent. So now that we understand what copyright is, we can actually discuss copyright laws. We can talk about how copyright laws affect you. Copyright laws can protect people against the improper duplication and distribution of things such as art. In addition to art, you cannot legally duplicate many other common household items, including computer software, movies, and music recordings, without the copyright holder's permission. Posting copyrighted works on file sharing programs is not only copyright infringement, it is a crime under the Family Entertainment and Copyright Act of 2005. These copyright laws also affect businesses in many different ways. For instance, images, words, advertisements, and newsletters that they either use or have online are all protected under copyright law. And any person who uses these things without the proper permission from the business are subject to the same consequences as normal copyright infringement. So how does copyright work when it comes to computer software? The software created by the people is the same as writing a book or creating a work of art. It means it needs to be protected. It may be the only way to solve a problem or just a really good way to solve a problem. Either way, once you have the code, your solution can be implemented by other programmers, can be improved upon, and made part of other projects. If you can control through legal action who can use the code and who cannot, then you have real ownership over your creation. Because of this, it is beneficial for the software creator to go ahead and register the software and have it copyrighted. The registration process is very straightforward. Typically costs anywhere from $35 to $55 for one piece of software. This process is similar for most countries that have copyright laws. However, of course, price of registration is going to vary depending on what country you're in. Then now we can delve into different copyright laws around the world. So one might ask whether copyright laws are the same across the globe, and the answer is no. Each country can set its own copyright laws, although most tend to be somewhat similar in nature. There have also been some treaties to help extend some copyright protections across countries. Copyright itself is a creation of law in each country. Therefore, there is no such thing as an international copyright law. There are a few treaties that encourage copyright protections from country to country. For instance, we have the Berne Convention, which has been ratified by nearly 180 countries. It was signed in 1886 and has been revised a number of times. Another treaty is the WIPO Treaty, which is from the World Intellectual Property Organization. It was signed in 1996 and made sure that computer systems and databases were also protected by copyright. Finally, we have the TRIPS, or the Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of International Property Rights, which was also signed in 1996. This agreement was used to ensure that there were protections for IP rights as well. So, how do the copyright laws of the United States differ from laws in other countries? Well, let's talk about the United Kingdom first. Their copyright laws are just about the same as ours. However, their laws do not protect IPs. One main difference is the time limit of copyright protections in the UK. In the UK, authors of literature, dramas, musicals, or artworks have copyright protection until 70 years after the end of the calendar year in which the last author dies. Authors of sound recordings have protection until 70 years after the first publication. Broadcasts have copyright protection until 50 years after the first broadcast. Films enjoy copyright protection until 70 years after the last director, composer, or author dies. Published edition of works in magazines or other periodicals have protection until 25 years after the end of the calendar year in which it was first published. This is quite a bit different than the time limits that the United States has. In the US, copyright protections endure for the author's life plus 70 years. For two or more authors, the copyright protection extends until 70 years after the death of the last survivor. The law considers IPs created by an employee for his employer as a work for hire. In this instance, copyright protection lasts for 95 years from the first publication, or 120 years after creation. After the expiration of the protection term, the work falls into public domain, which extinguishes the copyright holder's rights. So we've gone over this, but what about other countries? Well, there are actually a few countries that offer no copyright protections. There's only 3 of them, and they are Eritrea, Turkmenistan, and San Marino. These are the only 3 that are said by the U.S. Copyright Office to have no copyright protection, either for authors within their borders or for foreign works. This is not to say that they never will, but as of this time, they do not, which means any person can get away with copyright infringement in these countries if they choose to. Afghanistan is working on creating copyright laws. A group called the Intellectual Property Working Group of the Afghanistan Transitional Commercial Law Project, which is a joint project between American Bar Association and Center for International Management Education, is working at rebuilding Afghanistan's legal framework, which includes creating copyright laws. There are also a few countries that the U.S. Copyright Office is unsure of as to whether they have copyright laws or not. These countries are Somalia, Kiribati, Sao Tome, Principe, Tuvalu, Vanuatu, and Nauru. There are also some countries that do not participate in international copyright agreements, but may have their own copyright laws. These countries, the countries that fall into this category are Seychelles, Iran, Iraq, and Palau. So this kind of brings us to how copyright laws can affect global computing. As we know, people will always find a way to take things and use them for their own gain, whether it's images, music, or other things that could be copyrighted. While many countries have copyright laws, as well as the ability for people to gain foreign copyright protections in their home countries and foreign countries, there are countries that do not give that opportunity. This means that people in those countries can just take your works and use them all that they want for their own personal profit. Luckily, there is the DMCA, or the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This act has a provision in it called the Safe Harbor Provision. The Safe Harbor provisions of the DMCA protect internet service providers and website hosts from liability associated with copyrighted material that may be posted on their website by third parties. This is extremely useful because people in other countries may use your software and illegally duplicate or distribute it. But with this provision, you won't be liable for it. It also means that you still have the ability to file a lawsuit, even though it would be extremely difficult to do so. This is why the protection exists, though, to ensure that you have the ability to protect yourself and keep yourself from having any liability. In conclusion, copyright seems like it's a complicated process, but it's not. When it comes to software, there's a registration fee of $35 to $55 for each piece of software. All you need to register the software is the title of the software, the name of the author, the date the software was created, and the name of the copyright holder. When all this is done and the application is submitted, you must also send 1 or 2 copies of the software to the United States Copyright Office. It doesn't seem very complicated to me. After doing this easy process of registering your software, you are now protected from the illegal duplication and distribution of your software. You aren't liable for anything bad people do. While it may not prevent people from software piracy, it at least protects you in the event that your software is used for something illicit in nature. There are bad people in the world who will find a way to use copyrighted material to benefit themselves. But should they get caught, they will have to pay the steep consequences. And it is nice that you can also get these protections in other countries by registering there as well. Although some treaties have allowed the protections to be automatic, the registration process is still similar for most countries, and it is a fairly painless process to keep yourself protected, and I don't think there's any kind of issue with that. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.